Thank you. Such eye-opening films, wonderful. Now it's my pleasure to invite a few of the filmmakers up on stage. Can we have Emily Chai, director and cinematographer of Queen Snakes, Scott Gillingwater, the subject and species at risk biologist and herpetologist at the Southern Ontario At-Risk Reptiles, both for Queen Snakes, and can Joshua Duncan, the director and producer of Carp Fear, please come up? And we have Anne-Marie Rocher, the director and producer of Ricochet, along with Alex Lucas, the editor and music composer for Ricochet, Sculpture and Mycelium. Come on up, guys. Lovely. This is the wonderful thing about documentaries. They are so eye-opening. There's always things that you can't even imagine. Mycelium, for instance. Who knew? I certainly didn't. And learned so much about the carp issues and invasive species and queen snakes. Can we just take a quick moment, just for the audience, just go through, introduce yourself, tell us your role in the film again, and just who you are and which film.
Yeah, hi. My name is Josh Duncan. I'm the director, producer of Carp Fear.
My name's Scott Gillingwater. I'm the species at risk biologist who works with queen snakes as part of the Queen Snakes documentary.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm the director of Queen Snakes, the film featuring Scott.
Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Rocher, the director and producer of the film Ricochet, the mycelium sculpture.
Hi there, I'm Alex Lucas, the editor and composer of Ricochet with Anne-Marie.
Thank you all for coming and bringing your films to this festival. Really interesting grouping. Let's start with Carp Fear, since you're right beside me here. Tell me, what is it? Actually, this is a question really for all of you. What brought you to these stories?
Yeah, so covered it a bit in the film. I've been, fishing and hunting and camping for a long time, so I'm always involved in the outdoors, and I go to all these conventions, and for a long time, there's always somebody there from an organization talking about invasive carp. And one day I kind of just wandered over, got into a conversation with them, because I was trying to catch a carp species that's here in Canada. And I was just talking to them because I was interested, and they told me all about this species of fish, and I thought, wow, that is very, they're very destructive and important, and not a lot of people are aware of it. In the US, they're very aware. There's so many films, so much news coverage, and they're everywhere. But in Canada, we're not aware that it's even a possibility. And then looking more into the subject, I realized what was really interesting is that this is really the first time that we have a chance to keep an invasive species from establishing itself and from preventing it. And if it's going to be the first on record for Canada, that feels very important to cover and to document.
Yeah, I think it was wonderful, and I think you really covered a lot. It was great. Queen Snakes, let's talk about that. What brought you? How did you discover this story?
I think it's a similar thing. I started by looking into snakes in Ontario generally because of the reputation that they had. And I was just curious if there were any conservation, groups related to snakes in Ontario. That's what led me to SOAR. I know they do a lot of very impressive work, not just with snakes, but also with, is it soft-shell turtles? Soft-shell turtles as well. Yeah. Honestly, I was just so fascinated in the organization itself, but they were doing Queen Snakes work when we were looking to film, and that's what we ended up focusing on.
Yeah. It's beautiful. You did a beautiful job with the photography, and just a beautiful film. And it gave us a real sense, both of these films gave us a real sense of southwestern Ontario. And so Ricochet, mycelium, I mean, honestly, that is a really interesting topic. How on earth did you stumble across this?
Well, Geneviève Rocher, one of the artists, is my sister.
Ah, there we go. There is a similarity there.
So she lives in Montreal. I live in Georgian Bay. And but I was in touch with her, and I was seeing that she was working with that new material. And at the moment, I'm very interested by film about environment. So of course, I was interested. And then Geneviève told me that she was working on that big sculpture, but they were not able to find a space. You know, they were applying, and nobody wanted their that work. So I said, well, then come at my place. I will take your sculpture and I will document all the work you did to make it. And I think it's going to be a very interesting short film.
It is interesting, you know, it's in an environmental collection, when it's something that, you know, I certainly wasn't really aware of how far mushroom roots go into the earth. And so this was one that kind of, this film could have gone in an art program, it could have gone in an environmental program. We think that it was really interesting how this very natural material can be used like this, and so we felt that's something environmental, honestly. And so, do you have any thoughts about that? How it really is landing in this program about the environment?
Yes, of course. And the thing is that it was interesting also it was their first experiment with a sculpture that could live outside. And the idea was also to see if the sculpture would survive the winter and the spring. And in fact, it did not survive. And the mycelium fall on the ground and disappeared, and it was completely biodegradable. So they came back a year later, and they did put another one, trying to add a little, something else, you know, so it may survive another winter, but it didn't succeed. So it's research again.
It's a work in progress, and
it's a
all
work in
research.
progress. Yes.
Oh, very good. The music, Alex, as well as editing, you're the composer of that music, and it was lovely. It really gave a sense of that.
Thank you.
What were your thoughts as you composed it? Were you aiming for a certain to get a feeling across, a certain feeling?
Yes, actually, it was a challenge because the way that the artists talk about the material is very clinical and technical. So there wasn't any drama or kind of emotion coming out of it. So I thought I'd take the viewpoint from, you know, nature's life force. So I went for something lyrical, for at least the part when we're talking about the mycelium. And then, of course, when I saw Eric, one of the artists, when he was wearing his hat, I thought, oh, this guy looks like a saxophone player. So I thought that's a good way to introduce the artist's psyche into this project. So there were like two components musically into the film, and also into the actual story, basically, which is art dealing with sustainable material. But if I may add, you had made research, Anne-Marie, about scientists who also use mycelium as a soundproof material for buildings. So it's still at the experimental stage, but apparently there is a future for that, you know, going for sustainable materials.
Yeah.
But maybe Anne-Marie can talk a little more about that because she has done the research.
Yeah. I wanted to do a film with other artists, architect, designer who are working with the same, you know, material. So for the moment, I said, bon, I have this, so I'm going to do that short film, which is more maybe a demo, and maybe I can do a feature film with the topic.
Very, very interesting. Let's go back to queen snakes. And Scott, a question for you. Those are such small snakes. How big do they get? I mean, the tiny ones, is that a baby?
Yeah, so the real small ones in there were newly born young. The mature snakes are smaller than your typical garter snake. You know, you're looking at, you know, less than 2 feet or so. And, you know, they're such a unique species because, one, they're very cryptic. You don't see many of them. They're very rare. They're a crayfish specialist. They only eat crayfish in order to survive. So they need to have a thriving population of crayfish. So if you have water quality issues and you lose your crayfish, you lose your queen snakes. So to me, someone who's a herpetologist, they've really endeared themselves because of all of these traits, and I've always rooted for the underdog. So that's something that kind of hit me hard in the 1990s when I started working with them.
And that looked to me like it was the northern branch of the Thames River, up in the St. Mary's direction?
Well, actually, surprisingly, here in the City of London, we maintain 2 populations of queen snakes. I can't say exactly where they are because there are issues with illegal collection or even just keen people that want to photograph them and accidentally crush them under rocks. So of the 25 populations that used to be in Ontario, we're down to about 13 or 14. 2 of them are within the City of London, which is absolutely incredible.
That's amazing. Are there any questions in the audience? Let me just see. Yeah, okay, I see your hand flying up. Go ahead and just yell it out. Did you get that? If you have the chance to do your documentary again, is there anything that you would have done differently, Josh?
I would have caught a fish, for starters. We filmed for like 2 days of me fishing, and there was just nothing. I couldn't catch it. That was brutal. But I think one thing I would have done is I really wish we did this as a school project. It was our final thesis film, and I really, if I had to do it again independently, I would have given it more time. It would have been a 15, even an extra 3 minutes. I think would have been able to give a little bit more breathing room. It's very information heavy, and I guess one of the concerns I have is that it's too fast. But if I could do it again, I would try to give it a bit more breathing room and space out the story a bit more to make it much more digestible.
Yeah, that is a very good question. Any other questions out there? Yes. Did you get the question?
I think so, about snakes in general versus queen snakes and funding.
Was it funding? Yeah, just like how snakes get less funding.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not just queen snakes. Snakes in general often aren't seen as, you know, a desirable animal in a lot of society, and that sometimes overlaps even into available funding. So occasionally there is some federal or provincial funding. Sometimes some foundations will give funding, but it's a constant battle. So for 32 years, we've been struggling to find funding for not only our turtle work, which ranges over multiple species, but also our snake work. So I will say that sometimes we will get funding for one thing, and it may spread to snakes a little bit on the side whenever times get tight, but we're always trying to let the public know that, you know, these animals are deserving of our understanding, our respect, and long-term conservation. So when Emily and Ido contacted me about doing this on queen snakes, I was so excited because I had mentioned, well, there's turtle work too, and Emily was like, no, these queen snakes are what we really want to focus on. And that meant so much to me as someone who's been doing this type of work for 3 decades and always trying to fight to have someone do something on the queen snakes. So when her and her team came out, it was absolutely incredible. All of them were just so special, so amazing out in the field, you know, sitting in the water, you know, past their waist, filming these small little snakes. And Emily had mentioned in the past, it said, you know, maybe this documentary will reach that one person who has a deep pocket. You never know. So I have to thank Emily and their entire crew for focusing on these snakes, because maybe it will lead to something more financially. If not, we're going to continue doing what we do, but it's sometimes an uphill battle.
If there's any deep pockets out there who fell in love with the snakes because of this beautiful photography, please let us know. Well, we have to wrap up, unfortunately. Our time is up, but thank you again for these beautiful films and for bringing them to the festival. They're all in competition, so be sure to mark your ballots and deposit them on the way out the door. These filmmakers will be out in the lobby. It is our youth festival night, so it's going to start getting crowded out there, but please go and find them and ask them more questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.